Hello and welcome to Pat O'Keefe's World of Curiosities. Thank you for being with us tonight. We are going to delve into something that makes some people very happy but creates mayhem in other people's lives. So, Zia, go into detail. What are we doing tonight?
Well, thank you everybody for watching. We're live right now. Anything could happen, but so what we're going to be talking
Let's
about
hope it does.
only good things, interesting things, nothing bad happening. No, it's not Mercury retrograde right now, so we got that going for us. But we're going to be talking about dreams, and that's such an interesting subject. Everybody, at least at some point in your life, has dreamed. I don't so much have dreams lately as much as I used to, but it's all about your psyche and understanding yourself. And when you kind of get into like esoteric subjects, magical subjects, it's all about know thyself. And you can kind of interpret your own dreams, but we want to know about your dreams. So leave us a comment. What's like a crazy dream you had that you want us to interpret, and we'll try to give you an interpretation. Um, but yeah, it is very like psychological, symbolic, and it's crazy because people often have the same type of dream. I'm sure we've all, dreamed about like your teeth falling out, dreamed about being like naked in front of a group of people. And a really common one is like falling, and then when you wake up, you hit the ground, and then you wake up. Um, and there's maybe a few others. If y'all think of anything, just comment. But yeah, we're gonna try to do some dream interpretation and just talk about dreams in general. And I want to ask you, Pat, what is maybe a memorable dream that you want to share? Because I know dreams are kind of personal. Some we don't want to always share or talk about. And actually, there's a superstition in Appalachia: don't talk about your dreams before breakfast, or they'll come true.
hmm That's
But what's
exactly right.
something? Yeah.
So, it's interesting because in sleep science and dream science, if you will, a nightmare isn't considered a nightmare unless it wakes you up, because at that point it is interfering with your sleep cycle, right? Which makes sense. But for me, I've had so many, but I will tell you the one that has had the biggest impact on me is, and I've had it since I was a child. I mean, as far back as I can remember, and I am standing in a field. It looks like a field, and there's this old, like, dirt road, no gravel, just dirt rutted road. And there's this old car there. It's like from the, I don't know, the 1920s, which is really interesting. And on the outside of the car are these brass, it almost looks like gas lights, right? And so I get in, and I know I'm well to do because I would have to be to have access to something like this during this time frame, because it looks like it's very late Victorian, um, very late Victorian, maybe shortly after even Victoria's death, but which was in 1910. But what's really interesting, I believe it's 1910 or 1901. Somebody tell us in the comments. But I get in this car and I have a shirtwaist on, right? A old cotton shirt that goes up to here, and I have the long black skirt on. I have boots and I have a hat, believe it or not, squeezing into this old car. And I'm bumping along this road. I'm driving. I'm bumping along the road, and I go around a corner and I hit a cow, a black and white cow. And so I died in that lifetime, in a car wreck. I always say death by bovine, right? Yeah, so that, and I've had it so many times, and I really do feel a connection to that era. And I think that sometimes our dreams are connected to the past, but not the past in this life, past lives themselves. So what about you, Zio?
Well,
What's
I'm
one
glad
of
you brought
yours?
that aspect up, that, you could be dreaming about a past life, or maybe, we sometimes can astral travel and have different experiences. So, yeah, dreams have always been an interesting subject for mankind, throughout history. Different, you know, ideas about what exactly is going on there. I think different things can happen. Like I said, it is sometimes psychological, where it's like you're taking in all this stimuli through the day, and while you're sleeping, your brain is kind of like processing all that and trying to make sense of it. And sometimes you can actually like predict things. Like some people has prophetic dreams where they will dream something before it happens. And sometimes that's, I think, possible because we do, and when we're in our unconscious mind, can tap into like the web of everyone, and we one consciousness. That's what scientists have kind of found out, is that that's possible. And
Mhm.
that's the way kind of like fungi works, like mushrooms all over the surface of the earth. They're all connected, kind of like one big brain. Um, but back up, what was I saying? Anyways, a dream that I know I went off on a tangent, but a dream that I had, I remember being a kid and having a fever dream. So yeah, sometimes things can happen in your brain where if you have a fever, that temperature makes you have a nightmare. So I dreamed about zombies attacking. But one of the dreams I remember that I would have frequently is like being able to, like, as a kid, being able to jump up and then I would just like float back down, and that was really cool dream, like kind of being able to fly or glide. So that was like a freeing feeling. And trying to think of maybe some of the weird dreams. And here's the thing too. Like I saw someone in a group on Facebook recently talking about like help me interpret my dream, and I dreamed about my pet rats, but everything I look up about the interpretation of rats doesn't seem right or seem to fit. And I'm like, well, it wouldn't, because you like rats and they're your pets, so the meaning's going to be different for you, than somebody, because a lot of people sees them as vermin and it's scary. They did carry the plague, but that wasn't their fault. It was the fleas. And I'm sure we've talked about all kinds of stuff to do with that and everything before. We know we love history. But um hmm
Well, you
yeah,
mentioned, being a personal thing, like what a rat would mean to me, because I do not like rats. I do not
yeah,
like rats. They carry vermin. Do not like rats
yeah,
because yes, it was the fleas that did it, but it was the rats that carried the fleas. So I always remember that as far as when we talk about the Black Plague. Now, my daughter loves rats. It's not a family thing. I'm not being totally biased against rats. But for me, it would definitely have
yeah,
a different interpretation than maybe for my daughter or for you, correct?
right.
Um, and also, dreams have been a part of our subconscious for, well, forever, ever since man found a stone to lay their weary head on. And we let go of the corporeal whenever we dream. I mean, Freud is the one that really brought all of this as far as psychology and this idea of dreams in the subconscious to the fore in psychology. But well before that, the Romans would have uh, they would seek out healing by meditating, by giving gifts to the gods, and they would do it before bed. They would meditate, give gifts, and then try to ask in the dream state, because they really did feel, as many do, that we are in a different state. We are able to move through dimensions and time
Yeah,
and connect with those higher beings. And so they would ask for that healing. And also the Romans believed that it was a personal thing. We just discussed that. That's one of the things that they believed, is that yes, it's personal. And so they wouldn't really tell their dreams to others. They would do dream interpretation within the family, or within the for the individual. And so that's something you have to ask, when you go for dream interpretation. I really feel that we have it all within us to be able to interpret our own dreams. However, Sometimes you can seek the assistance of someone who has a connection, if you will, to the other world, someone like us, and we may be able to look at this in a different way than than you're able to do, because sometimes when we're so close to something, it blinds us to the
Yeah.
full message because it may be something that uh, that we may not want to see. We got Miranda Herbert. She's got a dream. I dream about spiders and people in my life die. Okay. So every time she has a dream about spiders, or not every time, but sometimes, then people in her life die. I sense enough to know there will be a death, but I can't do anything about it. And it had always frustrated me. What is the use of having that predictive sense that also feels kind of useless?
Yeah.
Miranda, let me answer this real quick. I had a dear friend from childhood, and her name was Marty Workman. And she had the ability to sense death in her family. And it was the same thing. You know, she still wasn't able to do anything about it. Sometimes when we have gifts, it's not to, it's not to inform the person who's going to be affected directly, but it's your own personal gift so that you can begin to prepare for, the passing of someone. And it can be extremely frustrating. I know it was for her. And I will tell you too that people with gifts, some of us, it may just come out. One time I was sitting with her, Marty, and I looked at her and I said, Marty, someone is going to die. One of our children is going to die. And she said, well, which one? Because at the time, I had two girls and she had two sons. And I told her, I said, Marty, don't ask me to look at that. And 3 months later, she was walking past her son's door and he had huffed. Y'all remember the big huffing craze? And he had huffed some of the, stuff that you use to clean your keyboard, and it would be very, very cold. And he literally froze his lungs by huffing that. And he
Oh,
was still sitting up on the bed. It's a painful gift, Miranda. And all I can say is, obviously the spiders. When you think about what spiders do, they wrap their victims. Right? They wrap them up and they also kill their victims. So I really feel in this sense that you're looking at what spiders do in that sense. And of course, people can talk about Arachnia, the goddess Arachnia, and what her meaning is. But when you think about it, you too are being wrapped in that cocoon, not being able to do anything in order to help the person or someone in the family or a friend that you know is about to pass. And what do you think?
I was gonna say, when you dream of spiders, yeah, it often denotes, I guess, especially a lot of people are scared of them. So denotes you have anxiety on you. So it's like you already something around, and it's like I said earlier, I used the word web. We have this web of consciousness that all, we're all connected to. So if you think about it like that, the spiders are also like seen as like a weaver of our reality. And guess what else? The dream catcher myth is based around the spider and its web. So that's just I wouldn't say coincidence, a synchronicity with whatever, everything we've been talking about. Um, but yeah, the spiders are like the weaver of reality, of destiny, and it's definitely just interesting how things all connect like that. And one thing is like if you dream about a house, that often represents yourself, your mind, your state of mind, your body is the representation. And I a lot of the time will have dreams about water, like big bodies of water, like big waves coming, like tidal waves, or just being in water and feeling like I'm drowning. And then I'll take a breath and then be like, oh, I'm going to drown, but then I wake up. And when there's big, large representations of water in dreams, that can often denote like strong emotions that you haven't worked through. Feeling overwhelmed. Water's always attached to your emotions, and it can also be attached to love. Maybe like, yeah, unrequited love, feelings of just deep, strong emotion. And
Alrighty, we.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. See, are you
go
done?
ahead.
I didn't mean to be rude. I'm sorry.
Any more comments?
I thought you were done.
No,
Okay.
that's all.
Well,
I go
we
off on a
have
tangent.
we have another one. Yes, that makes sense. Thank you, Pat.
Ooh,
And the web of consciousness makes sense to Zia. How beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And then we also have Kelly Brewer who has a comment. Have you ever had a dream and then had a deja vu moment in real life, like not just one piece, like the whole scene? Zia, you start.
so you had a dream, and then you felt like that dream was playing out, and then you had deja vu. I can't say that I exactly have remembered the dream, like, but I felt like, yeah, I dreamed this, like it's happened. And to me, when deja vu happens, it's like you, well, some people say it's kind of like you shifted a timeline, or that, uh, to me, it means you're on the right path, I feel. And it's one of those things that you have to notice, sort of like a synchronistic event. When you're noticing like repeating numbers, things like that. Some people, I think, say that you possibly died in another timeline, and that you've shifted realities.
Kelly, it's interesting. I am not a dream walker. I call these people dream walkers, and but I have a friend, a very dear friend, who shall remain nameless because she's very affiliated with the church. But she is a dream walker, and she actually saw the towers fall
Wow.
before it happened. And she had even told me that she saw two towers and she saw them falling, and she saw an airplane. Now, it wasn't like she had seen it in perfect, synchronicity, as you call it, perfectly coming together. But she had all the parts. And yes, if this is something that you do, then you definitely have a gift. And you are someone that I really do call a dream walker in that you receive messages when you are asleep. And we have another Ronnie. Hello, Ronnie. My father passed in 2010. I never had a dream with him in it until last year. He is there, but never speaks. So he would like to know why he doesn't speak. Do you want me to go first, Zia?
Well, I would say that that is considered a visitation by a spirit, because, perhaps we do go to a dream world, or I mean, a spirit world, another reality when we dream. And maybe he doesn't have to speak, just kind of like, if you want to invite that type of experience again, just kind of like pray for it and think about it, and it quite could possibly happen again. But we often can communicate without speaking. How did you feel? A lot of the times in dreams, you have to think, how did this make me feel? What symbols were there? What colors? Things like that. But what you got to say about it, Pat?
Well, some of the same. Ronnie, I really feel that what it is, your father did not have anything to say. So, and I'm going to ask you this question. Do you feel that everything that needed to be said was said? Because that's usually an indicator that someone is visiting you, as Zia said. It's definitely a visitation. Sometimes we come back from these dreams and we are just heartbroken because we have to leave these souls that we have connected with again in a very, very real way on the astral plane, and we have to leave them. But usually, when someone doesn't speak, it's simply because they feel that they've said all that they need to say, and this is Dad checking up on you.
And one thing I want to say is, like, especially when stuff like that happens, keep a dream journal, a dream diary, by your bed. And it's good to have it by your bed too, because oftentimes dreams are very fleeting. You'll forget, soon after what you just dreamed. It's so weird. You're just like, mind is wiped sometimes. But, you might find that there is more detail than you thought, because if you record it and then you might dream something again. But yeah, keep up with your dreams. I think people these days have a lot of problems with dreaming and don't realize how important that actually is having that good sleep, our brain going to that REM cycle, and the circadian rhythm is off a lot of the time too, because we're always exposed to this LED lights, the blue screen of the phone. We need to be getting that sunlight on our eyes when we wake up, and it helps keep us our circadian rhythm. And people need to get good rest because it's important for your body and your health, your brain, and uh, but yeah, your dreams really help you like sort things out in your waking life. And there's ways that we can kind of work on keeping our dreams, coming, keep them to the forefront and of our mind. And that's something that ancient people did, was they, like you said earlier, was very into their dreams and keeping track of that, and interpreting them. And But mugwort is a herb that you can make a dream pillow with. You could put mugwort, hops, um, stuff like uh, lemon verbena, things like that that smell good, in like a little pouch, and put it under your pillow. And they say that mugwort's really supposed to help you with your like lucid dreaming, excuse me, and dream recall. And you can also make some different teas like to get you relaxed, like chamomile, lavender. I also put lavender in your dream pillow because it's just a nice smell. Um, but yeah, I think that's something that we really need to get back to as a culture, is appreciating our dreams. There is something to them.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, it's the whole subconscious life. Ronnie, I don't know if all was said, but he is also always smiling. Ronnie,
yeah, see, that's
that
an important detail, and I think
that
that just a smile can say a lot.
that may be the message that he has for you, is just to let you know that he is in a very happy place and
Yeah,
at peace. Okay, and then Ronnie says thank you both.
of
All
course.
right.
Thanks for watching. And you know what? If there's people watching this, I know after the fact on YouTube or wherever, please still leave a comment, and we will try to interpret your dreams.
Hmm. Yeah, and if no one has any other, I gotta ask, do you have any other dreams that you'd like to share?
Me?
Hmm.
Okay. A lot of the time, this is super interesting. Around here, there was creeks, and one creek in particular near my home, actually a couple, but it probably actually connects the same one. But I would dream about, like, for whatever reason, trying to cross the creek, and there would be crocodiles in there, alligators, and they would be, trying to snap and attack me, and it would just
Uh,
feel so like real. And but I don't think I like woke up from it, so it wasn't necessarily a nightmare by your definition. um but that was kind of a reoccurring dream. And so then I kind of took it as like a crocodile or alligator to be a one of my spirit animal totems. And I do like them, and they're really really old primordial beings, that's basically dinosaurs, has been around here forever. So what, that could represent like the strength, willpower, staying alive, and also the wisdom that you've gained over time. But actually, so like I said, it's real personal too. You got to think about what is your personal association, not just something that you would search up online and look up the definition. So I always loved the movie Peter Pan. And Captain Hook, and there's the crocodile trying to eat him, eat Captain Hook. Um, and he's got a clock in his stomach ticking. You always hear the tick, 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 and you know that he's coming. And so, really, what that represents is the passage of time. And Captain Hook was an adult, and Peter Pan a child still that never grew up. So it's kind of like facing growing up. That's what it meant for me. You know what I mean? But still being able to retain like that childlike wonder, that's always been important to me, is to still kind of like hold on to that, because that's the basis for me of magic. You have to have the belief and the open mind that anything can happen for it to be, for it to happen. But yeah, and then there is a little bit more of a personal side to that story that I'll tell you later, that's funny. That kind of related back to that. And but yeah, that's what it meant for me, is kind of meant growing up, kind of being afraid of growing up.
I love that. That makes sense with all of Peter Pan and the crocodile that was always ticking.
Yeah.
All right, we have another question. Miss Carla Bruce Bolton, I've had the same dream 2 times, the same images, 2 different houses, several years apart, but it's like real time. I can't move, but I can speak. A shadow man, uh, a shadow man. When I ask him what he wants, he said, I am just here for the children. Then I see children running and playing. Then I wake up. Was I even asleep? Well,
Um,
Carla, I
you go
would have
ahead.
to, Carla, I would have to ask, were you asleep whenever this dream took place? In other words, were you in bed at night, or were you maybe on the couch, drowsy? That would help. But you're talking 2 different times that you've had this. You've got 2 different houses. Now, the houses can represent both the subconscious and the conscious. So it could be that. And what we could be doing is linking an event to both the conscious and the subconscious. And by that, I mean something in the subconscious is reaching out to the conscious to make itself known. So several years apart, but it feels like real time. So it feels like 2 years have actually passed. Is that correct? Between that, when you're in the dream state. Now you can't move, but you can speak. You have We have to know, why is that? Is it that you simply are sitting there and you cannot move, or is it that you're bound in some way? And the fact that you can't move but you can speak, you can still articulate, but you can't do anything about whatever is going on. You see what I'm saying? You're bound to a certain place. So you can speak, you can talk, but you cannot do anything about this. So we have a shadow man. When I asked him what he wants, he said, I am here for the children. Then 3 children, then I see children running and playing. Then I wake up. Was I even asleep? I have to ask, was there, and of course, don't share any details, but could there be something traumatizing from your childhood that is trying to rise up from the subconscious into the conscious, or even just simply a fear for your own children or grandchildren, although you don't look old enough to have grandchildren, that they may be harmed in some place and some way, and so you become hyper alert to the point of taking it straight to the subconscious even. What do you have?
Um, well, I'm glad you brought up sort of like the shadow man thing, because that's like a common dream that people have. But a lot of the time that's related to sleep paralysis, where that people feel like they're in bed and they have their eyes open, they see somebody in the corner, it's a shadow figure of a person, and sometimes it's a man with a hat, so he's known as the Hat Man, and that's a common dream or apparition. That could be like a paranormal thing, a spirit of some sort that people are seeing. And there's different theories like what they are. Some people could say it's other people astral traveling and things like that. But yeah, that's often happens when there's sleep paralysis involved. But and like I said, your house represents yourself, so you said there was 2 different houses. And I want to ask you also, was these houses were these houses that you've been in before or seen before, or was it just something totally different? um it could represent, like, different times in your life, because you had it at, different times in your life. You also got to look at, how did you feel? Were you scared that he was gonna like harm the children, or was it like, what was your connection to the man? um yeah, you got to think about how did you feel. So it could be a logical thing, like how you feel towards men in your life and things like that. Um, have so only maybe 2 times you've had this dream. That is interesting.
Hmm. And what she's saying too is one time I was in the bed, in the first time, and in the dream I got up and walked into my hallway. The second time I was sleeping in my recliner, and then she adds to that I have 7 grandchildren. Well, Carla,
Wow.
you don't look old enough to have one. The first dream I didn't have grandchildren at that time. Some dreams were probably 12 years apart, and they were exactly alike. So, with what I've stated, I really feel that there may be something in your childhood, something traumatic that is kind of bubbling to the surface, so to speak, um,
Could be.
through this dream. Yeah, and you're right. A lot of times uh, when you have, like sleep paralysis, you'll wake up and you may feel like you've got pressure on your abdomen, like they used to be call it being ridden by the hag, right? Or you may see someone standing in the doorway, or you may feel evil around you. Whatever it is, it's a very unpleasant experience. But we're talking about an entire dream, not just the
Yeah.
experience of waking up feeling that horror, if you will, of this very evil presence around you. Yeah, so if you do have someone to talk about with that, this is what I'm seeing. I'll be honest with you. This is what I am seeing in this particular situation.
Yeah, I feel like it's anxiety related. Okay, I see what you said now. You're saying you had a dream where you used to live and then you moved and had that same dream in a different house. I was
Oh,
thinking that you said that you were dreaming about a certain house, but I got
that's
you
what
now.
I thought too. I thought
First time,
subconscious to conscious.
I don't think
Hmm.
I was scared. More interesting. Oh, it was a couple months ago, so that's pretty interesting. So kind of think back, like your what was your life like then? Where did you live then? What kids were present in your life at that time? What kind of things was going on? And maybe you don't remember, but that's the good thing about journaling about your dreams too, because
Hmm.
then you'll figure out, well, that's why I dreamed about that, because this was going on. So that can make more sense when you write it down and write like what's going on in your life, and just keep, I think it's important, just for your in general, to keep up with diary of what's going on in your life, what
Hmm.
happened, and, you know, keep
Hmm.
track of things.
And the fact that, now we don't have the subconscious to the conscious is because, a home, when you see a house, it usually does mean conscious or subconscious in a dream, or can often. But
Yeah.
in this situation, you have basically, to boil it down, you've had 2 dreams 12 years apart about a very bad man being shown as a shadow figure, saying that he's here for the children, and you see the children playing. It's still, I'm still convinced
Yeah.
with what I'm still seeing that we're still talking about something with childhood, and I feel that
Yeah.
it's has to do with your own childhood in some way. Let's see. Now we've got one, and Carla, thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you.
And then we've got Laura Lee. The other night I dreamt I was telling my late father about how hard it was dealing with my mother for many years after his passing. And in the dream, he put his hand on my shoulder as if to say he understood. The dream bothered me all day. My mother has been passed for a year. Now, why did it bother you,
Yeah.
Carla? If you could share that with us. Thank you, Carla. And Laura, my apology. Laura, what was it about this dream that bothered you? Because reading it, it seems kind of nondescript. You have your father, he's there, he's kind of patting your shoulder. Is it the fact that he was there without your mother?
Um,
Okay.
and
Because that would tell us a lot, would it not?
yeah.
Um,
So
yeah. Okay, here she goes. She said, my dad was not very loving. Well, let me tell you something, Laura. When you get on the other side, and I can speak to this as a medium, all of a sudden our eyes are opened. We see everything. When they talk about your life flashing in front of your eyes before you pass, it's more than that. When you cross, you are so connected to divine energy and to everyone and everything, the past, present, and future. And, he's aware that he made mistakes. And he's probably, if he wasn't very loving to you, he's aware that he should have been.
Yeah.
And so, basically, he was just there to, it sounds to me almost to thank you for having kept your mother and had done this, considering that he wasn't there and that he had the personality that he did, that he wouldn't have been very loving if he had. It's almost like an apology, is how I see this. Zia?
Yeah. Because, yeah, you got to think about your feelings in the dream because we don't, like, know your relationship that you had with them, you know. So, and you said it bothered you that he said, I know.
Because he wasn't loving towards her. And
Okay.
again, Laura, I sincerely feel that he was apologizing to you. He
Yeah.
was letting you know that, he did have emotions for you and he was thanking you.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think that's probably right.
Oh, Laura, that's beautiful. She said, I thought that too. He was acknowledging my pain. Let's take one more. This is from Stephanie Fox um, Duzing, and she's just a lovely soul, by the way. I've had a recurring nightmare since I was 6 years old where I am being chased by a giant with green eyes. He chases me down the street and runs through the neighbor's yard and climbs up a peach tree to escape. He keeps jumping to get me, and just before he gets his mouth around my ankle, I wake up.
A giant wolf is said.
Is it a giant wolf? What did
Yeah.
I say?
Well, I was just
Oh,
going
a
to
giant
say,
with green eyes. Yeah.
to me, that just represents, I think, your anxiety of, just going through life and having your different anxieties. The wolf also, like I was talking about, if you were here when I was talking about the crocodile thing, wolf often represents independence, fierce independence. People say they're pack animal, but you've also heard the lone wolf. So there was only one wolf chasing you. So maybe it's like a part of yourself that you're afraid to face too, being like a strong person because you want to be able to fight back against that wild animal chasing you. But it's a giant wolf, so that's kind of out of the question. But you want to be able to defend yourself. You don't want to feel helpless and defenseless. That's the whole thing about a nightmare. It's like it's your own mind kind of like getting you and attacking you, I feel. So it's just kind of like becoming more secure in yourself, more confident. And maybe there's something happening in your life when you first had that dream that would cause you to be upset. And it's interesting around that age, is when kids sort of start having really bad nightmares as our brains develop. We start learning things and dealing with our emotions.
Well, I agree with what Zia is saying, Stephanie. This definitely does sound like an attempt, especially starting at 6, of a 6-year-old trying to cope with anxiety, maybe with things that are going on in the house or at school, and we make up the monster that chases us. The good thing about your story is that you do manage to climb up a peach tree, and right before he gets you, you always wake up. So he doesn't, even though this is a nightmare, and this would be considered a nightmare by definition because you do wake up, he's this is not able to harm you. So the message truly is in this. dream, no matter how bad things may get, no matter how difficult, no matter how anxious, you can escape that. You can rise above it. You can go beyond it. You are strong and you are a survivor. And that is the tell within this dream.
Yeah, and I wanted
So,
to also bring up that so is this peach tree a tree in reality, or is it just in your dream there was a peach tree and you knew it was a peach tree because you saw peaches on it? Because that's a real interesting like kind of addition to it, especially if you saw the color of them. Because people say a lot of the time we dream in black and white, so you the fact that you saw that its eyes are green is a cool detail. Um,
the peach tree was so confusing
yeah,
because that neighbor had no tree in their yard. No,
yeah,
but your amazing imagination put that tree in that particular yard. Uh, and then also, why were you in that yard? Is there some reason? Was the neighbor particularly unpleasant? Because it's interesting that that's where you went to. I mean, it's either very unpleasant or someone who's very kind, because you went there for safety when you
yeah.
climbed that tree in that yard. So always look for that sort of thing.
And
Also, when you're
a
looking at your
peach a lot of
dreams.
the time, peachy keen, it's represents like, goodness, ripe. Sometimes it can represent love, it could represent fertility, stuff like
Oh
that.
yes, it can definitely represent youth when you think about,
Yeah,
nice, bright, juicy
yeah,
peaches, right? And so it could represent a lot of things, but for you, that tree represented safety,
yeah.
because that's where you went. So the tree is probably representing someone who kept you safe, or a situation where you would make yourself safe. Like, did you have any rituals at night that you might do? Did you close the closet door? Did you close the door, to your bedroom? There could be any number of things that that represents, but it's definitely the one thing that it does represent is safety. And she finishes, I was running down the street and I was getting further away. The road was just stretching out before me, so I just randomly changed
Um,
direction with my running. And when you
See, you
did
were
that,
saving yourself. You were saving
mhm.
yourself from that.
All right. So there we go. And let's see, I think we've got one more comment and we'll wrap up. Did you have someone that was super jealous at home, or were you jealous of someone at home? You don't feel safe at home or sharing with family, or you would have ran to your home.
Yeah,
She
that's a
has a
good
point
point.
there. That's a good point, Miranda. And that's why I said, was there something special about this yard and someone associated with the yard
And
that
I
you
see
went
why you're saying
there instead of
jealous
home?
because the eyes are green. I see why you're saying jealous. Makes sense.
Hmm.
Somebody was, yeah, think back
Green
to your
eyed.
childhood and what was going on, people around you. Yeah, good,
All right.
good, good interpretation, Miranda.
Miss Stephanie is saying thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight. We have enjoyed being here, doing what we do. Do you have anything to say before we?
Well, I was just going to say thank you, everybody, for making this a great episode. I'm actually glad so many people came in and told us about their dreams. Um, but yeah, thank you. Like and follow us on
Mhm.
YouTube if you're not, and yeah, thank you. Good night.
Yeah, thank you. Good night. And listen, we want to thank you for being here, because without you, it would be a very lonely place. And until next time,
Stay
stay
curious.
curious. All right. And always